Hey guys, so now that you are starting to rank up, so you're starting to mine, farm some crops, cut down some trees, you may have died a few times, you may have met some of the mods on the server, but another big aspect of the server is the economy, because as you start to master your classes, you're going to start getting down a road of fiefdoms and starting to interact with them more, maybe have the vision of creating your own someday, or maybe you want to work in a fiefdom, and all of those things require some copper pieces. Now, copper pieces is our money that we use on the server. So, the way to make copper pieces is a little bit unique on the server because it involves selling a raw material, but it's a raw material that everybody can get. So, you know how we were talking back about the different ranks when we mentioned that every single player has access to swords and archery, right? Every single player has the access to that, and they're not restricted like the other three things are, like cutting trees or mining. And the reason we did that is because that is what drives the economy. The economy is centered around mob parts. So hunting mobs with bows and arrows and getting mob drops, and then selling mob drops at nearby stores. These are called server shops, and Spawn has one, and then fiefdoms can open them. Now there's a whole bunch of mob drops. Not every single mob drop in the game is at a shop. Like for instance, we chose bones instead of arrows and spider eyes instead of strings, which in a way sort of makes sense. We try to use the pick the part that isn't as useful, but then again, things like gunpowder are worth more money, or gas tiers, so you may find yourself not actually using them for their actual purpose, but instead using them for money. But we tried to make it where that wouldn't really be too much of the case, because one thing we didn't want to do on the server is set a price on actual items. We want the people to set the price in the economy, and we'll talk about player run shops down the road. But here's the server shop here in Spawn, the mob shop. Most of them are called the mob shop. And when you go hunt mobs and you collect mob drops, you can come and sell them. Now, this server shop buys all of the items that you can get in the overworld. Now, there's nether items that can be added to the mob shop, and we'll talk about, when we talk about a bunch of the different buildings for fiefdoms, when we talk about that guide, we'll talk about the credit system and how you can decide what your mob shop sells. But for the instance, for the general player, all you need to know that the most basic ones you're going to see are, gunpowder, rotten flesh, spider eyes, and bones. But you might see some other variations that people have picked. For instance, in Spawn, you also have ender pearls and then slime balls. So you can see here's what they're worth: 1 copper piece, 1 copper piece, 2 and 2, 1 and 2. Now, ender pearls are arguably might be a little bit low, but now that the end is open, a lot of people can really farm those and get quite a lot of money from those. So we've had to lower those, and it's also because we want people to maybe actually use them for different things. But you come into these mob shops, and every time you walk into a shop, there should be some sort of message. At least most will have a message that show you where to go. So let's go ahead and grab something for example purposes. Let's say you have 3 gunpowder and you have 2 rotten flesh. You just killed some mobs and you want to make some money. So you come into the mob shop and you do /shop, sell, and whatever item you're holding in your hand, if the shop buys it, it'll just buy all of them. So you see 3 gunpowder sold for 6 copper pieces. But say I had I didn't want to move my mouse, and these were somewhere in my inventory. Like for instance, let's do this. We'll shove them in my inventory. We'll do /shop, sell, rotten flesh, and if I only wanted to sell one of them, I could type in 1, but in this case I want to sell all of them, so I type in all, and it'll sell all the rotten flesh in my inventory. As you can just see, it just did. So now that I made some money, I want to check to see how much money I have. I can type in /money, and then I can see how much money I have. I have 708 copper pieces, 708.18 copper pieces. Now, if I wanted to check how much money somebody else has, like let's for instance say Little Diva, we want to see how much money she has. She has 654 copper pieces. Let's say I wanted to pay somebody in money. For instance, somebody did a task for me, or maybe I was buying a plot at a fiefdom, which again, there'll be more details on that later. But it's as simple as money pay the player's name, so Little Diva 101, and then let's give her 8.18 copper pieces. And you can see I sent that much copper pieces to her, and now my money is lower and Little Diva is quite confused, but I have a nice even 700 copper pieces. that should cover all of the basics. So if you want to make money, to rent rooms, to buy plots, to pay people for resources that maybe they don't want to trade wood, but they'd rather copper pieces for something like iron, what you can do is go hunt some mobs and make some copper pieces. So there's one at spawn in some of the other towns here, like Forestford has one, but I don't really buy any different items here. I haven't picked nether items, but a town like New Haven might be buying some nether items because they do have a nether portal there in town. So going to the nether is risky, but you can make much more money doing so. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Hope you understand now how the economy system works here in Avius. In the future, we'll be talking about living in fiefdom, a couple of the features, for instance, renting rooms, and then down the road, perhaps mastering classes, because that'll probably be the next thing you'll encounter. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're enjoying this playlist. See ya!